sentimento natural que acontece com razão. É Deus que escolhe quem vai se dar bem. A caminhada é igual, seguindo a mesma direção. Pensando juntos nós vamos além. Lágrimas na vitória, sempre na derrota ou glória. É luz na escuridão, somos um só coração. Sempre vivo na memória, faz parte da minha história. Nada vai nos separar. A amizade é tudo, é se dar sem esperar. Nada em troca dessa união, é ter alguém pra contar. Na indecisão, nunca se desesperar. Sempre ali pra estender a mão. Valor maior não há, é feito irmão. É se dar sem esperar. Nada em troca dessa união, é ter alguém pra contar. Na indecisão, nunca se desesperar. Sempre ali pra estender a mão. Valor maior não há, é feito irmão. Um sentimento natural que acontece com razão. É Deus quem escolhe quem vai se dar bem. A caminhada é igual, seguindo a mesma direção. Pensando juntos nós vamos além. Lágrimas na vitória, sempre na derrota ou glória. É luz na escuridão, somos um só coração. Sempre vivo na memória, faz parte da minha história. Nada vai nos separar. A amizade é tudo, é se dar sem esperar. Nada em troca dessa união, é ter alguém pra contar. Na indecisão, nunca se desesperar. Sempre ali pra estender a mão. Valor maior não há, é feito irmão. É se dar sem esperar. Nada em troca dessa união, é ter alguém pra contar. Na indecisão, nunca se desesperar. Sempre ali pra estender a mão. Valor maior não há, é feito irmão.
Boa noite, mulheres! Eu sou a Malu Malaquias e é um grande prazer estar conectada com todas vocês na nossa Conferência de Mulheres 2020.
Eu sou a Bia Rodrigues e que alegria é poder estar nessa conferência inédita.
Sim, é a primeira conferência virtual e que fantástico! Porque apesar dos detalhes serem um pouco diferentes, os parâmetros serem diferentes, ainda temos o mesmo princípio de estarmos juntas, aprendendo mais sobre o nosso relacionamento com Deus. Amigas, sem dúvidas, juntas somos mais fortes. A Conferência de Mulheres é feita pela Igreja Cristã Internacional de São Paulo desde 2012, com muitos temas em diferentes endereços, mas ainda assim com um único propósito: levantar mulheres e aproximá-las da cruz. Em 2019, a Igreja Cristã Internacional do Rio de Janeiro teve a sua primeira conferência de mulheres. E agora, em 2020, estamos todas reunidas. São Paulo, Campinas, Niterói, Rio de Janeiro e tantas outras cidades que vocês estão residindo. Então, queria animá-las, coloquem no chat de onde vocês vieram, onde vocês estão sentadas, nos ouvindo. Isso é muito especial. E bem, com isso, você já sabe o motivo do nosso tema, Conectadas. Quando estamos conectadas umas com as outras, podemos fazer coisas incríveis, imensas para Deus. Mas quando estamos conectadas com Deus, nada pode nos parar.
Sim, é verdade. E vamos ler uma escritura lá em Salmos 34, versículo 3.
Sim.
A Bíblia diz: proclamem a grandeza do Senhor comigo, juntas exaltemos o seu nome. Então a Bíblia nos chama a exaltar o nome de Deus juntas. E que incrível! Assim como salmista, eu queria chamar todas vocês a proclamar a grandeza de Deus comigo e com a Malu. E também, talvez não foi a primeira live ou a primeira conexão virtual que você teve hoje ou nessa semana. Mas hoje à noite a gente vai aprender a se conectar de coração. E só quando a gente faz isso profundamente com Deus, é quando a gente pode estar conectadas umas com as outras verdadeiramente.
Sim, então vamos para a nossa programação dessa noite tão especial. Depois desse momento de boas-vindas, vamos ter o privilégio de ver o coral feminino interpretando a música Salmo 126. E logo após, vamos ter a introdução ao tema com a nossa conselheira de mulheres da América Latina, Linda Moreno.
Sim, eu queria compartilhar um pouco da Linda. A Linda tem servido como missionária no Brasil durante 9 anos, onde ela tem servido a Igreja Cristã Internacional de São Paulo. E ela tem sido uma discípula de Jesus há 23 anos. E olha que incrível, porque como 7 meses como discípula, ela já estava em campos missionários, onde ela tem servido a Deus até hoje. Pessoalmente, eu tenho muita gratidão pela Linda, porque eu admiro muito as convicções e o coração que ela tem para Deus. E na verdade, algo que eu aprecio é como ela sempre serve com alegria e também a visão que ela tem pelas mulheres e o que a gente juntas pode fazer com Deus. Então, que privilégio que vai ser poder aprender desse coração hoje à noite. E na verdade eu posso falar também por mim e pela Malu, mas por todas as igrejas de São Paulo, de Campinas e do Rio, quando eu expresso muita gratidão pelo coração da Linda.
Então animo todas vocês, mulheres, vamos pegar nossas bíblias, nossos blocos de nota, caderninhos, para anotar e fazer grandes reflexões. Depois disso, nós temos o privilégio de ser a plateia virtual. Olha que legal! A plateia virtual de um talk show com 3 mulheres de diferentes lugares do mundo, Austrália, África do Sul e Estados Unidos, que vão compartilhar conosco como elas se conectam com outras mulheres e também com Deus. E nada mais especial do que fechar esse talk show com novas conexões. Mulheres que tomaram decisão essa semana de se aproximarem ainda mais de Deus em atitudes. E não para por aí, porque vocês sabem muito bem do nosso sorteio. Então logo após as novas conexões, vamos sortear um jantar para 2. Então eu estou super animada para saber qual de vocês vai receber um jantar em casa. E para finalizar tudo com todas bem conectadas, vamos assistir a uma última apresentação musical.
Sim, como podem ver, a gente tem um banquete espiritual nos esperando essa noite e vamos começar a nossa noite com uma oração.
Amém.
Então, Pai amado, Pai querido, muito obrigada por essa noite, Deus. Muito obrigada pelo privilégio que é estar conectada contigo, Pai. Obrigada por poder te buscar de todo o coração. Por favor, Pai, nos ajuda a se conectar com o Senhor, Pai, profundamente com a sua palavra. Nos ajuda, Deus, ajuda com a conexão hoje à noite, Pai.
Sim.
E abre os nossos corações, Pai, para que a gente entenda a sua mensagem, Pai. A gente entenda o seu coração, Pai. Esteja profundamente conectadas com o Senhor e umas com as outras, Pai. Obrigada por tudo e eu oro tudo isso em nome de Jesus. Amém.
Amém.
De tudo que era mal.
Como humanos, entramos neste mundo com desejo e uma necessidade de conexão. Ainda como criança, nosso desenvolvimento emocional é grande impactado pelas conexões que fazemos, que nos fazem sentir amor, proteção, segurança. E esse desejo de conexão também tem alimentado muitas plataformas virtuais hoje em dia, como Facebook, como videogame, como sites de buscar namoro. Construímos restaurantes, bares, cafés, também para ter esse tempo de se juntar com familiares, com colegas, com amigos. E para quê? Porque temos esse desejo de criar conexões profundas. Como diz, vamos ler uma escritura sobre isso, em Romanos capítulo 1. É muito especial esta escritura. Romanos capítulo 1, versículo 12 diz assim: Isto é para que eu e vocês sejamos mutuamente encorajados pela fé. Muito especial. Sabe, este ano 2020, com a pandemia Covid-19, tem drasticamente mudado nossa vida dia a dia. O governo tem forçado quarentenas, estamos praticando distanciamento social, temos que usar até máscaras que cobrem a metade do nosso rosto. Então agora, mais que nunca, estamos precisando, desejando essa conexão. E hoje eu quero falar sobre a conexão mais importante que temos nesta vida, a conexão com Jesus Cristo. Vamos ler uma escritura, mais uma escritura, que vai nos animar sobre isso. Em João 15, João, capítulo 15, versículo 4, diz assim: Permanecer em mim e eu permanecerei em vocês. Nenhum ramo pode dar fruto por si mesmo se não permanecer na videira. Vocês também não podem dar fruto se não permanecerem em mim. É uma promessa também. As promessas de Deus são poderosas e incríveis. Na minha experiência, assim, na minha vida, eu tenho sido cristã por 23 anos. E nesse tempo teve vários altos e baixos. E também teve tempos que eu não estava conectada com Deus. Eu estava na igreja, fazendo coisas da igreja, mas eu não estava conectada com Deus. Então isso mostra que ainda estando na igreja não garante que você vai estar perto de Deus nem conectada com Deus. Meu marido e eu estávamos liderando uma igreja em outro país, sendo missionários lá. E eu comecei a ver que eu estava mais conectada com as pessoas e com a igreja e as coisas da igreja do que com Deus. Isso pode acontecer, infelizmente. E chegou um ponto de uma diferença em doutrina na igreja e teve uma divisão. Então essas pessoas que eu estava tão conectada, que eu amava tanto, foram embora. E o que aconteceu? Minha fé quebrou. Eu quebrei. E por quê? Porque meu coração e minha fé não estavam conectadas com Deus. Estava conectada com as pessoas. Então eu acho que foi uma ferramenta de Satanás para me enganar também. Acho que todos nós podemos nos enganar com isso. Eu precisava me conectar com Deus de novo. Eu estava conectada com as coisas da igreja, com as pessoas. Isso também pode acontecer no seu casamento. Se você acredita que seu marido, seus filhos, suas conquistas devem ser sua fonte de alegria ou é sua fonte de alegria, então é com isso que você está conectada, mas não com Deus. E precisamos estarmos conectados com Deus, porque tempos difíceis vão vir. Especialmente com as pessoas que a gente mais ama, porque são os relacionamentos mais próximos que temos. Mas eu quero te animar com uma escritura, uma promessa de Deus também, que está em Salmo 27, Salmo 27, versículo 3, que diz assim: Ainda que um exército se acampe contra mim, meu coração não temerá. Ainda que se declare guerra contra mim, mesmo assim estarei confiante. Isso me anima muito porque isso que Deus faz. Essa é a força que Deus dá. E hoje comigo eu tenho 3 mulheres incríveis que eu tenho o privilégio de chamar minhas amigas. E elas, cada uma tem uma história única que vão contar pra gente hoje. E elas vão estar conectadas conosco de vários lugares no mundo, diferentes países. Mas elas têm uma coisa em comum. A conexão que elas têm com Jesus Cristo. Carrie, da Austrália, ela começou a viajar o mundo e ela encontrou a resposta que ela estava buscando de uma forma muito interessante. Patrick, que vai vir desde South Africa, de África do Sul, da Joanesburgo. Ela é uma advogada determinada, mas ela ficou com ciúmes de algo que eu e você pode ter de graça até. E Shay cresceu na Califórnia e ela aprendeu uma lição muito importante em um lugar muito especial. Agora vamos conhecê-las. So let me introduce you to them now. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your friendship and your heart to want to share your life. I know it's going to inspire all of us.
Thank you so much for having us.
So our topic today is connected. And I, for one, am super grateful for the connection that we have, even though we're in different countries. This is a very important subject, especially now since we've been forced to have such little contact. And I'm excited to help women not only have a deeper connection with each other, but to have a spiritual, strong connection with God. And that's where you come in. That is where your life experience and your heart will help motivate women to get connected to God. So let's go ahead and get started. So my first question, and we're talking to Patrick, who is in South Africa. And we've had a little bit of technical difficulty. So I have my phone here. She's going to be answering our questions through our phone, but we can see her image on the screen. So Patrick, if you could please tell me, what were you connected to before God?
So great to be here with everyone. You know, before being connected to God, I was connected to my idea of God. I was very religious. To me, God was close, yet very distant. He was loving, yet vengeful. He demanded obedience, yet he was very merciful in the midst of my rebellion. My experience with God was very emotional, so I felt connected to him. If my sin caused pain, God was there to comfort me. I cried out to him many times in my sinful relationships with men and my worldly pursuits of getting a powerful, high-paying job as an attorney so that I could lead a life of materialism and comfort. To me, God was like Santa Claus. But disappointment drove me to connect with God. The prestige, the money from being an attorney, it just didn't make me happy. Attention from men and dating men that I thought could fulfill me didn't make me happy. You know, the material possessions didn't make me happy. I thought all of these things would make me happy. I was actually very shocked when I was disappointed that my accomplishments didn't fill me up because the ones that they will. Then I met a disciple. She didn't make as much money as me, and she didn't have the respect and the admiration I had in the community because I was an attorney, yet she was happy and fulfilled. As I got to know her, I sensed that she had what I wanted, but I didn't know how she got it. After we had dinner on the day that I met her, she asked me to study the Bible, and God opened my eyes. What she had was a genuine relationship with God based on the scriptures, and I wanted it.
Wow. Yeah. I cannot agree with you more. I think, yes, the lack or the need of a deep connection can really drive us to connect to the wrong thing. So I completely agree. And I'm so glad that you were able to get to know someone who could help you get connected to God. That's really amazing. So my next question is Carrie, coming to us from Australia. Hello, Carrie. Thank you so much for being here. Carrie, so help me understand what helped you or what drove you, what inspired you to get connected to God?
That's a great question. I think even listening to Patrick, a lot of the things that she was saying, I can really relate to in a big way. I mean, I grew up Catholic, I grew up religious, and I always believed in God all my life. And I'd go to church on Sundays and things like that, but I never really understood the Catholic faith. I always had a desire to know God. Heaven was a big motivation for me. I'd always believed in it, and I always thought, yeah, I really want to go to heaven. So that was a really big motivation of what inspired me to really look for a good connection with God. In my 20s, I went around to a lot of different churches trying to find what I was looking for. I had a great life growing up on the Gold Coast in Australia. I had a great family, a great friends. I had a great job. I had a long-standing boyfriend. I thought all these things were the things that were going to make me happy, but there was still something missing. And I often ask myself, there's got to be more to life than this. What am I looking for? So I had everything, and I thought I've got to find something more. So I decided to travel the world. So I did that. I went backpacking around the world trying to figure out what it was that I was missing in my life. Funny thing was, I really didn't know what it was, because I would have absolutely said I was a Christian up until that point. And then when I landed in London, a girl invited me to church. I met a disciple, and she was like, hey, did you want to come to church? And I was like, yeah. And she really started studying the Bible with me and opened my eyes to the Bible like I'd never, ever seen before. I never really understood how far from being right with God I was, and how I'd never really connected with God. And she opened the Bible to help me see just how to be connected with God. It was amazing. It truly, really was. And in 9 days, I got baptized.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of people do different things to help them search or find what it is that they're missing. And it's incredible to know that you, in your travels, you were actually searching for something, but God was searching for you and used a person in another country to reach out to you, help you study the Bible. You were able to make those decisions that change your life in 9 days and get baptized. That's really inspiring, because it really doesn't have to take a long time. So that's really amazing. And I think another area that can be very difficult for us is the area of family. Family can also be relationships that can be very challenging at times. And I think that it's something that we can all struggle with. I think maybe some of us have good relationships with our family. Some of us have difficult relationships with our family. But Shay, I wanted to ask you, how did your connection with God help your relationship with your family?
Hey, Linda, I'm grateful to be able to share. I so appreciate actually what Carrie shared, because it's true. Connecting with God really is so transformative. I mean, learning to imitate Christ's love and forgiveness and consideration drastically changed my relationship with my family. I felt like for the first time I was seeing my mom, not just as the woman who raised me or fed me or changed my clothes and told me she loved me, like as a whole person with a past and with hurts and with scars and when I really considered her whole life and the struggles that she went through and ultimately what she went through in order to give me the life that I had, for the first time, all I wanted to do was shower her with affirmation and tell her she's incredible and thank her for the things that she's done, and ultimately fighting to really imitate the way that Jesus viewed her. with my dad, we had a very estranged relationship growing up. And honestly, in my heart, I just had a long list of hurts and unmet expectations. But when I, decided to consider someone other than myself and try to see life through his eyes and what he had experienced, I could finally see things in him that I could be grateful for, that I could appreciate, instead of just a long list of hurts to validate my own bitterness. And I think now I so appreciate the memories that we had. I so appreciate even like the times we have now in how we're able to connect. Just the other day, he sent me a text and was like, "Good morning, have a great day." And I remember thinking, wow, God, like you've brought us so far. This would have never happened before. This type of connection, it was only made possible by God. And I think with my sister, honestly, before I became a Christian, there was a huge falling out of my family, and it caused a big rift ultimately I allowed it to cause a huge rift in our relationship. And I totally cut my sister out of my life. Most people didn't even know I had one. I never talked about her. And this went on for years. And it was only after becoming a Christian, and connecting with God's love, that I realized that I could no longer, with a clear conscience, withhold my love from her, or withhold my heart. Who was I to do that? And when God so freely gave his love to me. And I remember inviting her to a Women's Day when I knew I'd be sharing my testimony. And I was so nervous because I didn't know how she was going to respond to hearing my heart. And I remember afterwards we talked and we cried and we embraced. And it was such a healing moment for our relationship. And I knew, I'm like, wow, this is only made possible by God. And it was so cool because a couple years later, she studied the Bible and got baptized as a disciple of Jesus Christ. And then my brother-in-law, her husband, also studied the Bible and got baptized and decided to truly connect with God. And so I remember thinking, I've wasted so much time being bitter, and I'm exhausted, and wow, look what God can do and how he can really heal families. And now we're double sisters, sisters by blood, but also in Christ. And so it's really incredible how much God can heal our relationships and our family.
So huge. And so many of us, I know I struggle with forgiveness as well. I can hold a grudge, which is not good. But really, that's what darkens our soul. When we don't forgive, our hearts can become hard and darkened. And then it even changes the way that we are. And it changes the way we view people and God. And maybe we don't even see God. So it's amazing to see how God healed your heart, your family. You're living proof that it's possible. And that you can have that happiness and that peace again with your family and be united in that way and be united in Christ also. And that's really awesome, the way it's beyond what we can even imagine, what God can do with our heart and with our family. So, and I think another area that is challenging area, I know it's an area that I've had trouble with myself, is the area of dating, boyfriends, marriage. It can be very challenging as well. So, Patrick, I wanted to ask you, how did your view on dating, boyfriend, and marriage, how did this change after you connected with God, and what changed?
That's a great question, Linda. Thank you so much, Shay, for sharing what you did about God healing relationships, because I know that God healed my view of dating and marrying, after I got connected with him. My views actually changed radically because God healed me. Before becoming a baptized disciple, there really wasn't a difference between my view of dating and marriage. I lived with my boyfriends and I had sex with them like as if we were a married couple. I used them for my purposes, which included money and status. Also, I was not committed to whoever I dated. If I met someone who was appealing to me, then I dated him, whether or not I had a boyfriend while I was seeing this new guy. There even came a time where I had to be vigilant when I was on a date with one man because I was concerned that I would see another guy that I was dating. And at one point, I even dated a married man. I became everything that I looked down upon in my pride without God. I became the adulterous woman. I became the promiscuous woman. And you know, as I dated different men, I was very idolatrous of them, and I expected them to idolize me also. We spent as much time together as we could, and if we weren't together, guess what? We were planning on how we were going to get together. I used men to fill the void, that emptiness that I had. They became a source of value for me. But after becoming a true disciple and connecting to God, I learned to get my value from God. I did not need to have a certain man next to me with a certain job and a certain position and a certain bank account to feel complete. I had the greatest man that I could ever have in my life, and his name is Jesus. He lived a life that provided an example of how I should live in every area of my life. He died for me, showing me a love that I had never experienced before. He treasures me, making me complete, and showing me the love of the Father that I did not grow up with. With Christ, I learned to be pure, not engaging in sexual activity with a man as a single woman. And for me, that was a big deal because I led such a life of immorality and impurity. I also learned to be a true friend to men and not look at them as a means to what I wanted, but as friends that I can also give to and be kind to and be friendly to. I learned to appreciate the men in my church instead of using them for my selfish purposes. I learned to date and be engaged to a godly man with boundaries of purity, emotional boundaries. I learned not to idolize him, constantly calling him, telling him everything because I needed him for everything. I had a God to fulfill my needs. I also learned that in marriage, my husband's purpose is not to meet all my needs to feel loved and to feel valued. He's my partner. He helps me to get closer to Christ, and I help him to get closer to Christ too, as we help others to get closer to Christ. I have learned the true meaning of purity and love. As God allowed me to marry the man of my dreams, my husband, we've been married for 15 years, and his name is Andrew, and I'm so grateful that God has allowed me this honor.
Wow. That is so awesome. That is so inspiring. I love to hear stories like yours, really like all of you, but that is really inspiring because when you changed where you got your value from, everything else changed. Your view on marriage, on dating, on men. And since we're good friends, I know that you and Andrew have an incredible marriage, which is really great. And it is very healing. It's very healing that God has the power to fulfill your heart and to heal your heart and to change your view on everything. It's very inspiring. So I know that a lot of women struggle with this area too. So you are living proof as well that it can happen and you can have the fairy tale life. So another area that I wanted to talk about, since we touched a little bit about it, about friendships, is friendships can also be very different. You know, we can have different perspectives and different views on what friendship is, how to make friends, why do I need friends? And so, Carrie, I wanted to ask you, what were your friendships based on before you were connected to God?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really appreciate what Patrick said, because I think a lot of, even with my boyfriends at the time, I treated them similarly as well. But I think for me, connection to my friends, it was mostly based on common interest. I definitely was very active in a lot of areas when I was young, and I think traveling was a big thing where I met a lot of people. My best friend was traveling the world with me when I did become a disciple. Sport, growing up in Australia, sport is always a big part of your life, and I had a lot of friends and I played a lot of sport, and I think you really become very close to people when you play in a team with them. Nights out as well, going out with my friends, and you meet a lot of people when you're out. I was very social. I like to have fun, and so I had a very big friendship base. But now it is God that, is just what my whole friendships are based on. You really learn to be friends with people that you would never be friends with as a disciple. People from different cultures and different interests, different ages. It's funny because some of my best friends are actually younger than me, a lot younger than me. But it's really cool just to have them in my life. It's really exciting. It helps me to understand people so much more, just having all these different people involved in my daily life. Also understanding the times that we're living in, in the different perspectives from different ages of people. I have two 22-year-olds, and so having all these younger people in my life really helps me to relate to them and to connect with them as well. When I saw God's plan for not only my friendships, but also for my boyfriend and my relationship that, ended in marriage, it's just like, as Patrick was saying, there is just nothing like God's plan. When I saw God's plan, I knew that's what I really wanted for my relationship with my boyfriend or my husband at the time. I wanted something different than I had seen, because I had a boyfriend in the world, and we were going out for 8 years. He asked me to marry him, but I said no, because I'd seen so many of my friends' relationships just become, just so hurtful and end up in divorce, even by the age of 25. So becoming a disciple helped me build the most important relationship of my life on God's standard. Absolute purity, as Patrick was talking about, helps you build a relationship with a different foundation. When I got married, it was really cool, because on the morning of our wedding, my husband sent me 12 white roses for 12 months of purity that we had in our dating relationship, which was really, really just really special. And our first kiss was on our wedding day, was after our vows. And it really has set a great foundation for our relationship even today. It really helps just having God's foundation in your life for your friends and also your marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know I'm very grateful for our friendship. I know we have very good friendships, even though we are literally in 4 different continents, which I think is amazing. And we can be very good friends and have a strong connection. I feel very connected to each one of you, and I love all of you because of our connection to God. And just like one of you were saying, that different cultures, Carrie, you were saying different cultures, different ages. I mean, we are all from different cultures and different ages now. And I'm just so grateful for our friendship and how God makes it possible, because literally, how are you going to get to know somebody in 4 different continents and have a close relationship if it's not for God and his standards? So I think that's amazing. And Shay, you and I have known each other for quite a while, for a long time now. And you actually came on the mission team here to Brazil when we came and planted the church. So tell me, how did living in Brazil deepen your connection with God and others?
That is an awesome question. What a privilege it was to be on that mission team to Brazil all those years ago. And just like Carrie was sharing, like only because of God and God being the foundation of my relationships would I get to go to another country with some of my best friends to be there for the purpose of being a missionary. And it's honestly, going to Brazil changed me fundamentally as a person. I think it's really hard to pick the most impactful moment, so I'm just going to choose one of the many. But I felt like every day while I was in Brazil, God was showing me something different in my heart. And I remember this one day in particular while I was there, I made the decision, the not so smart decision, to get on the metro during rush hour on the red. And so you can probably imagine where this story is going.
Yes.
And it's jam-packed and I'm stuck somewhere between someone's armpit and someone's backpack. And looking looking up and seeing that we're arriving at my stop and I'm nowhere near the door. And so I'm like desperately trying to get through this sea of people to get out at my exit. And I'm frustrated. And I get to the door, my head's out, but my backpack is still stuck in the sea of people. And I'm like pulling and pulling. And finally, I feel someone lift my bag and chuck it out the door. And my body flings with it. And I'm like, who would do such a thing? And I remember I looked around and I was totally prepared in my sin to just give a really dirty look to whoever did this. And I turned around and what I was met with was a group of strangers smiling at me, waving and cheering. And I realized in this moment, I'm like, wow, I am so prideful and so arrogant. Like, here are these strangers and they're rejoicing with me. Like, it was a victory. They got me out at my exit and they were so excited. You know, and here I was treating this moment like going on the metro was some deep trial that I had to endure. And in that moment, I felt like God showed me, like, Shay, you're willing to live among the Brazilians, but you weren't willing to become Brazilian. And in that moment, I just felt so humbled. Like, God showed me something so ugly in my heart. But not to shame me, but rather to show me something that I needed to work on, something that God and I were going to work on together. And now, honestly, I love Brazil. I love the people of Brazil. I miss it often. Out of everywhere that my husband and I have had the honor of living, that's where I would want to take our future kids to be able to show them the incredible country, these incredible people that are so filled with love and gratitude and servitude, and really be able to show them, like, hey, this is where your mom lived, and these are the lessons that she learned while she lived here. And so it was such a privilege and so impactful to be.
Yes, yeah. Well, I agree. Being a missionary is not easy. Learning to love a country that is not your own, a people that is not your own. I've been living in Brazil now for about 9 years, and I have to say the best thing about Brazil are the Brazilians. That is one thing I truly love. And Patrick, I know you're kind of giggling there, and I think it's you're not living in your country either. You are also in a country that is not your own. You grew up in the States, and now you are in South Africa. Wow, what a change! So, what would you advise someone who is trying to connect to God right now in the country that you're living in, South Africa?
I would advise someone who is trying to connect to God right now to start by reading their Bible every day for at least 30 minutes. You know, in reading the Bible, we get connected to God because we get to know Him. Connections start with knowledge. Knowledge of someone means that we can start to have a deep relationship with them. I would also advise that someone take time every morning, at the same time every morning, to pray to God, to pour their heart out to God for at least 30 minutes. Prayer doesn't include just asking God for things either. You know, I live Philippians 4:6, where the Bible tells us to pray. And that word pray, when you translate it from the Greek, it actually means to have intimacy with God. And that means sharing your life, sharing your dreams, your hopes, your failures, your frustrations, everything. You know, in prayer, I also believe it's so important that we connect to how we feel. You know, as women, a lot of us can numb. We push through. We harden our hearts so that life doesn't bring us down. But when we do that, we can't fully express who we are to others. And so we cannot be connected. You know, I encourage women to do what I call an emotions journal. I love that. You do it at the end of every day. You take maybe 20 to 30 minutes and you just write down what happened during your day, what you felt about it. But no emotions journal is complete without going to the scriptures and finding those emotions you felt in the Word of God. So you can get guidance on, what do I do with these feelings I have? And, you know, what are the biblical practicals that I can use to overcome? You know, in prayer, we can also express our gratitude to God. And, you know, like Shay, being here in Africa has fundamentally changed me. I will never, ever be the same woman I was before I lived here. One of the greatest lessons that I've learned while being here in Africa for the last 4 years is learning to be grateful for everything. We lived in Lagos, Nigeria for 3 years, and now we've been in Johannesburg, South Africa for a little over a year. And, living in a first world country like the United States for most of my life, you get used to certain things. You get used to living with water every day and electricity, and not just water, but clean water. You have sidewalks that are covered. You have grocery stores with stocked shelves. And if something is missing, if one thing is missing, you just go to a store clerk and you say, can you please get some more of this from behind the counter or behind, a certain door? And they go get it. But, living in Lagos, Nigeria, it just doesn't work like that. Sometimes we go to the grocery store and we can't find something for like 2 months. When we were in Lagos, Nigeria, we also ministered to very poor communities. One of those is called Makoko. Makoko is the largest impoverished community built on water. It was amazing to go and serve the families there and just love them. While living in Africa, I've also learned that there's so many things that we can get used to that we think are necessary, but they actually aren't. For example, having a great internet connection, it just doesn't always work like that. And today is a testament to that. As we're recording today, we just had a few issues. But having those issues teaches me to be very, very patient. We also don't always have electricity. You actually don't need to always have electricity. Like today, we didn't have electricity for a while. And so I couldn't join our session right away because I just didn't have electricity. But that's okay, because when you don't have electricity, you learn to put down your devices like your iPad or your phone. You learn to turn off the TV because there is no electricity, and you connect more, you talk more. I also have learned to be grateful for water. While living in the United States, I don't think I ever consistently thanked God for clean water. But clean water is a luxury in the third world. It is a luxury in Africa. Going without so many comforts, I have learned to be grateful for things and not entitled to them. We don't realize how much we're entitled to when we have it all the time. We don't realize how much we're entitled until it's taken away, and we get a bad attitude because we can't get a soy latte down the street at a place called Starbucks. There are no Starbucks in Lagos, Nigeria, so you just learn to survive, okay? You don't need a latte. So, a grateful person can connect. They can connect not only to people, but also to God, because they can see what others are doing for them and how they're providing and being kind.
Wow, that is amazing. And I know a few times we have been without water here in Brazil, but when we do have water, or when we without water, it has been clean. And very few times we've been without electricity. So it is a huge testament to your faith and to your love for the African women, for God, to give your heart in that way. And it's amazing that you do that because of your connection to God, and you want the women to be connected to God in that way as well. And, having a grateful heart, that makes all the difference. I believe that having a grateful heart helps you to love stronger, love more, see more, give more, because you're so grateful. When you're grateful, you're happy, really. And it doesn't even matter, like what you were saying, even if you don't have electricity, if you're grateful, you're happy because you can turn off your devices and you can connect with each other. You can connect to God. Maybe it makes you turn to God because you have no electricity. So it really is amazing how gratitude helps, and how our connection to God just strengthens our heart in every single way. So I'm so grateful for your life as well. So now we're coming to a close in our interview. And I'd like to ask a couple of retrospective questions. So Shay, thinking about your relationship with God, how do you see yourself 20 years from now?
That's quite a question. I'm not really sure where I'll be in 20 years. I think I just hope, honestly, to be more faith-filled and more in love with God then than I am today. It would be really awesome if God allows Tyler and I to have physical children, and many more spiritual children in the faith of men and women that we be able to help come to know God. I'd really love to be able to serve God again on the foreign mission field. That would be really special. But honestly, I think wherever God has me in 20 years, as long as him and I stay connected, I'm confident it'll be really awesome.
Wow. That can be a scary question, to ask somebody, where do you think you're going to be from in 20 years? And a lot of maybe women can struggle with the insecurity of like, what's going to happen? Where am I going to be? Am I going to be married? Am I going to have this? Am I going to have that? But you are so confident because your confidence comes from God, your connection to God, knowing that because you're connected to God, no matter where you are or what's going on, you're going to be okay. The same thing with Patrick, the same thing with Carrie. Your connection to God helps you to have that security to where you're not anxious. I mean, we can struggle with anxiousness here and there, like we all do, every now and then. But your base, your inner self is settled and it's at peace because you're at peace with God. So thank you, Shay, for that answer. Thank you. Carrie, yours is a little different. Your question is a little different. So if you could go back 20 years and talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell her?
That's a great question too. I had to really think about that one. I think if I got the chance to become a Christian earlier, I think that was something I would have probably told myself to do. It saves a lot of hurts when you become a disciple. Also, I think life goes by quickly, so enjoy every minute. And I think I've learned to do that throughout the years, but, starting 20 years ago, you could, fit much more in that as well. And I think have a bigger view of life than your own little world. Being a disciple really helps with that, with just looking beyond your own life, just reaching out to people, understanding other people's needs, not just, your own little world. Go after what you really want in life and don't give up on it. Life can weigh you down, and sometimes when you get that weariness, you just take the easy way. You give up a little bit on your dreams and your hopes, especially as you get older as well, because, life becomes a little more complicated with kids and jobs and health and, just all these things become bigger in your life. And often, we take the easy way out with that as well. And we give up on our dreams, and you can use those things as an excuse not to really push yourself to really go after the things you really, really want in life. I became a disciple when I was single, and it was sort of easier back then to, change everything, like, just change the way I lived, take chances, follow my dreams, just because it was just me. But when you have children involved and, husbands involved, family involved, it makes it a little more complicated. And sometimes we can use that as an excuse not to really go after what we really want in life, and even for God's dream in our life. And I think for me, one thing that I will always tell myself, but 20 years ago too, is just don't quit.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of my friends over the years lose their connection with God and his church. And to be honest, I have really thought about that a couple of times. When we've been in really hard times in our life, it seems easier just to give up. And it takes a lot to come back from that. It really does. It takes a lot to get your connection with God back. But nothing is worth more than your relationship with God. Nothing in this world is worth it. And he is waiting always. And his church is always there to help us. And those things, I think that if, I would tell myself 20 years ago, and I still tell myself today, that, nothing is worth more than my relationship with God.
Wow, that is such sound advice. Persevering, not giving up. It's so important. Our heart learns to love more when we don't give up, to love God more, to love our family, our husbands, our children, to have more patience, to have a deeper compassion in our heart when we don't give up. Because you're right, giving up, it is the easy way out. It's just fast and easy, and it seems harmless. Like at the time, it seems like it's what the least hurts the least, but it really, in the end, it's what ends up hurting you the most, because you give up, and it hurts your character, and it really shows. And God doesn't give up on us, which is really encouraging, which is why I wanted to have this talk show, and why I wanted the three of you to be able to share your lives. Your lives are so inspiring, and they're so incredible. And the decisions and the journey that you've gone through throughout the years in your life, I really pray that they motivate women to get connected, to want to get connected to God. So ladies, thank you so much for being here today, giving us your heart and sharing your life with us. And now there's something a little special. You are, don't know, it's a surprise, but we've conspired with your husbands to give you a little gift in our appreciation to you for being here with us. So hopefully your husbands are close by. Can they come in?
Congratulations.
Oh, Joe's on his way. So, Andrew, what did you get, Patrick? Oh, there's Joe. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, and Patrick got chocolates. Look at the dozen white roses. Is that what that is?
Oh no, they're lilies. They're lilies.
Lilies, how beautiful. Oh, Tyler, thank you so much. And thank you for teaming up with us to surprise your awesome, beautiful, wonderful wives, who are dear friends of mine I love so dearly. So thank you so much. I love you all. Thank you for this time. And I hope that this has been an inspiring time for all of us. And we will continue with the rest of our program. Bom, hoje temos escutado vários testemunhos incríveis de mulheres ao redor do mundo. E como a conexão delas com Deus mudou a vida delas. Me anima, me faz lembrar da escritura que está em Isaías 40. Então vamos lá, mulheres. Vamos para Isaías 40, versículo 28, que diz assim: será que você não sabe? Nunca ouviu falar? O Senhor é o Deus eterno, o Criador de toda a terra. Ele não se cansa, nem fica exausto. Sua sabedoria é insondável. Ele fortalece o cansado e dá grande vigor ao que está sem forças. Até os jovens se cansam e ficam exaustos, e os moços tropeçam e caem. Mas aqueles que esperam no Senhor renovam suas forças e voam alto como águias. Correm e não ficam exaustos, andam e não se cansam. Essas são as promessas de Deus, que são incríveis para nós. E eu quero chamar todos vocês hoje de aprender mais de Deus. Nosso alvo é de ajudar vocês a se conectar com Deus. Então, temos preparado estudos bíblicos pessoais, virtuais, para cada uma de vocês, para aproveitar este tempo, esta oportunidade que Deus está dando para vocês se conectar com Deus de uma forma profunda, verdadeira. Talvez você está conectado com algo que é errado e isso está te cansando. Deus criou você para ter um coração suave, mas um espírito poderoso, para ter um impacto neste mundo. Você foi criada para estar conectada com Ele. Como diz em Eclesiastes 3:11. Nossa escritura é incrível. Eclesiastes 3:11 diz assim: Ele fez todo apropriado ao seu tempo. Também pôs no coração do homem o anseio pela eternidade. Mesmo assim, ele não consegue compreender inteiramente o que Deus fez. Então Deus já colocou isso em nosso coração para ter essa conexão com Ele. Eu quero animar cada uma de vocês hoje de realmente se aproveitar dessa oportunidade que Deus está dando para vocês mudar sua vida. Ser a mulher que Deus criou você para ser. E não importa onde você está na sua vida, o que você tem feito e o que está acontecendo na sua vida. Se conectando com Deus, Deus vai dar você a força para poder perdoar, a sabedoria para poder guiar seus filhos e também o amor que você precisa e o poder que você precisa para mudar sua vida. E agora temos algo muito animador. Agora vamos conhecer ou ver um vídeo de umas mulheres que tomaram a decisão de se conectar com Deus e tomaram a decisão de se batizar. Agora vamos ver isso.
O que me conectou com Deus nesse tempo foi estudar a Bíblia e ver o plano de salvação que Deus tem para minha vida. Uma escritura que ficou muito marcante foi Mateus 28:19, que Deus fala que temos que fazer discípulos. E espero que através da minha vida, outras pessoas possam se conectar com Deus.
O que me ajudou a conectar com Deus foram os estudos bíblicos, que me fizeram enxergar que eu precisava de Deus mais na minha vida, que isso foi bom para mudança na minha vida também, que eu precisava me aproximar mais de Deus, colocar a minha vida nas mãos de Deus para eu colocar o reino dele em primeiro lugar.
Primeiramente, eu queria pedir perdão a Deus e ao reino por ter abandonado a Ele. E o que me fez sentir reconectada com Deus foi entender a misericórdia e que nada é mais precioso no mundo do que ter a esperança de estar com Ele um dia nos céus e ver o quanto que é precioso estar no reino com o amor verdadeiro dos discípulos.
Eu quero muito agradecer a Deus, primeiramente, por todos os acontecimentos, por ter me encontrado, por eu estar aqui. E o que me fez estar conectada com Deus foi perceber que os meus pecados estavam me afastando dele. Então isso fez a total diferença na minha vida. Então eu quero agradecer todas as meninas que esteve comigo, que me ensinou, que disponibilizou seus tempos. Meu coração hoje se encontra cheio de alegria. Só tenho que agradecer.
Eu penso o quanto o pecado é injusto. Quando em 1 Coríntios 12:26 fala que quando um membro peca, todo o corpo sofre. Então eu peço perdão a Deus por ter ferido a santidade, sendo eu o templo do Senhor. E peço perdão aos irmãos também.
O que me ajudou a me conectar com Deus durante os estudos foi o fato das pessoas que estavam me auxiliando, sempre enfatizarem que eu não estava sozinha, que eu poderia contar com elas, me abrir, conversar sobre os meus problemas. E nesses momentos que eu passei nos estudos foram os mais difíceis da minha vida, tanto o meu contato com Deus como a minha vida pessoal. E esse fato de elas sempre estarem aqui disponíveis para me escutar e me ajudar me aproximou de Deus.
O que me mantém conectada com Deus é saber que a palavra dele é verdadeira e é viva. Desde a criação do universo até esse exato segundo.
Como que foi a minha reconexão com Deus? Sou do movimento da época de 1990, quando eu fui batizada com Deus, né? E isso começou a me encorajar, me animar, e eu também decidi dar esse passo também. Então, eu tô aqui para agradecer a Deus por essa retomada e pedir perdão à igreja por eu entender que eu magoei a igreja também, né? Então eu tô aqui no momento agora pedindo perdão e muito feliz por vocês me receberem de volta.
O que me conecta com Deus durante os estudos foi saber que Ele sempre está disponível para mim, no sentido de que Ele se importa comigo, de que Ele considera a minha vida valiosa. Eu acho que ver isso foi realmente muito importante e me faz ser muito grata. E também ver o quanto as outras pessoas se aproximam de Deus, o quanto elas estão junto com Deus, me inspirando a também estar junto com Ele.
Participei do Capão em 92, fui discípula, caminhava com Cristo, mas eu caí e infelizmente passei por isso na minha vida. Mas hoje, graças a Deus, eu estou aqui sendo restaurada. Agradeço a Bia, a Cleibe, todas as minhas irmãs que me ajudaram e eu estou muito feliz porque Cristo tem me dado uma nova chance. E hoje eu estou aqui para pedir perdão para Deus e para toda a igreja. Obrigada.
Deus realizou 2 sonhos no meu coração, que era conhecer Ele e ter um verdadeiro relacionamento com Deus e passar na universidade. Na primeira semana da faculdade, Deus marcou um encontro com a Carol e que junto com a Evelyn tem me auxiliado a conduzir os meus passos no reino e ajudado a fazer a melhor e mais importante decisão da minha vida, que é ter uma vida com Deus.
Eu sempre pensei muitas coisas a respeito da igreja e sempre quis me manter super longe, vivendo uma vida egoísta, querendo só as coisas para mim mesma, e poder estudar a Bíblia e saber que eu posso ter um propósito com Deus é muito incrível e muito especial. Eu estou muito feliz e eu só tenho a agradecer realmente a minha família por ter perseverado pela minha vida.
E qual é a sua boa confissão?
Jesus Cristo é meu Senhor e Salvador.
Amém!
Boa noite, mulheres. Meu nome é Fábia.
E meu nome é Amanda.
Que incrível foi essa conferência. Poder ouvir essas mulheres que, conectadas com Deus, mudaram suas vidas. Isso está tão ao nosso alcance. Podemos também nos conectar com Deus e mudar as nossas vidas. Eu estou super animada para colocar em prática, né? Cada uma dessas coisas que nos foram ensinadas.
Sim, e depois desses batismos, ver que todas essas mulheres, só dessa semana, tomaram a decisão de estar perto de Deus. Por isso, esse é o convite, para que você possa estudar a Bíblia e conhecer profundamente as Escrituras. E para isso, existem 2 maneiras para você marcar o seu estudo bíblico. O primeiro é falando com a mulher que te convidou para estar aqui hoje junto com a gente. E o segundo é que na página inicial da onde está acontecendo a transmissão, existem 2 botões do lado esquerdo que tem o ícone do WhatsApp e do Messenger. Então, se você enviar uma mensagem lá, com certeza alguém vai te responder.
Sim, agora vamos para o tão esperado sorteio. Vocês que se inscreveram vão ter agora a oportunidade de ganhar alguns presentes. Então, nós vamos começar com uma cesta de café da manhã para uma pessoa. Vamos ver quem vai ser a sorteada? Vamos lá. Vamos ver quem vai ser a sortuda aqui, hein? Vocês estão torcendo aí, né?
Sim, muitas mulheres.
Vamos lá, peguei uma, hein? Uau! Olha, a sorteada... A Marcela Joyce da Silva. Parabéns, Marcela. Você acabou de ganhar uma cesta de café da manhã. Vai poder desfrutar dela. Parabéns.
Muito bom. E vocês pensaram que acabaram aí. Que acabou aí. Nada disso. Vai ter outro sorteio. E esse sorteio é mais especial. Vai ser um jantar para 2 pessoas. Olha isso. Então, vamos ver quem vai ser a sortuda que vai dividir o jantar. Vamos lá, mulheres.
Vamos lá.
Olha, eu bem que podia ganhar esse jantar. Eu ficaria feliz. Vamos lá, deixa eu escolher bem aqui. Vamos ver. Opa. É o suspense. Gisele de Freitas Carnevale. Parabéns, Gisele. Você foi sorteada para um jantar para 2 pessoas.
Uau, parabéns, mulheres, que legal! Mas todas nós fomos presenteadas, é claro, com essa conferência, né?
Sim.
Todas nós ganhamos a oportunidade de tomar muitas decisões e de poder nos conectar com Deus.
Sim, e para encerrar a nossa incrível conferência de mulheres, vamos fechar com uma última canção.
Place in your heart, and I know that it is love, and this place could be much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place you'll feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place. In a world better place for you and for me. If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares of joyful giving. If we try, we shall see. In this bliss we cannot feel. Fear or dread, we stop existing and start living. Then it feels that always love's enough for us growing. Make a better world. Make a better world. In the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. And the dream we were conceived in will reveal a joyful face. And the world we once believed in will shine again in grace. Then why do we keep strangling life with this earth crucified soul? Though it's plain to see this world is heavenly, be God's glory. We could fly so high, let our spirits never die. In my heart, I feel you are all my brothers. Create a world with no fear. Together we'll cry happy tears. See the nations turn their swords into plowshares. We could really get there if you cared enough for the living. Make a little space to make a better place in the world. Make it a better place.